Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. I am your host. We are live right now on Rumble, Matt Morris TV, as well as YouTube, Matt Morris TV. Folks, today we are doing a special early morning broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 days ago, a collective of senior ranking Democrats, some currently serving in the House and some currently serving in the Senate, issued a public message in video form in which they openly and explicitly called for members of the U.S. military to engage in what can only be appropriately described as sedition or insurrection against the sitting president of the United States of America. That is President Donald J. Trump. And so last night we did a broadcast dedicated to this. We broke it all down. We're going to talk about it more today because now this entire story is absolutely blowing up. President Trump himself has chimed in on all of this. President Trump is a little bit of a spoiler here. On Truth Social this morning, he has been very, very active, letting the world know, letting the nation know how he feels about this. President Trump is openly, the president of the United States of America, is now openly calling for sedition charges against these Democrats that have themselves called for U.S. military personnel to engage in sedition and insurrection to undermine the will of the American president. Also, President Trump is now calling for executions. And I'm not kidding. And we're going to break all of this down. So I've gone live right now. It is 12:32 on the East Coast. In about 28 minutes, we have a White House press conference in which White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt is going to come out and talk about all of this and more, I'm sure. But I've gone live today about 30 minutes before that so that we can really break down this entire dynamic, because I'll tell you what, folks, the nation is on a razor's edge right now. Things are heating up. Things are getting really just concerning, crazy. And so I think at this point, we just need to break into today's broadcast, break into the news. Now, I do want to say real quick, ladies and gentlemen, first off, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Folks, over the last 10 days, over my last 10 videos, I have had 4 of them not get pushed. It's almost like they're shadow banned or being suppressed by YouTube. So it is imperative, it is of the utmost importance that if you are on Rumble, if you are on YouTube, like, subscribe, follow on Rumble and YouTube. There is, I'm telling you, on YouTube specifically, there is something very weird going on. So I am making a human-to-human personal request. If you enjoy the broadcasts, if you enjoy the show, the videos or the live broadcasts or otherwise, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe, because I'm telling you, there is something weird going on. But with that little preface out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into the show because we have a lot to talk about. Like I said, we are inside the White House press room right now. In about 26 minutes, Carolyn Leavitt is set to come out and let us know what's going on. I want to go ahead and play the video for you that is right now sort of in a way ripping apart the nation. This is the most hotly discussed topic in the realm of politics in the United States of America right now. I'm going to let this play. Like I said, a collective of senior ranking Democrat House reps and senators issued a public message 2 days ago, about 36 hours ago. Let's let it play, folks. Take a look.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly. Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
But from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
So here's the deal. Like I said, this is a collective of senior-ranking Democrat politicians currently sitting in both the House and the Senate that have taken it upon themselves to issue this public proclamation to members of the U.S. Armed Services, U.S. military, and also in the intelligence community, CIA, what have you, saying, hey, if there's an order or a directive coming from the president or his administration that you think is illegal, you can just not do it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Now, did they clarify, if you were to ask them, hey, what orders exactly are illegal? What is the Trump administration doing that is illegal, that is in violation or in contradiction with the U.S. Constitution? They didn't clarify that part. That's kind of the most important part, don't you think? Because over here they're saying, hey, whenever the Trump administration says to do something illegal, you don't have to do it. But then if you say, hold up, wait a minute, what are they saying that's illegal? They're not really clarifying that part. It's sort of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge dynamic. What they're effectively saying is, hey, if you're in the military or the intelligence apparatus, if you undermine or subvert the Trump administration, we got your back. We got your back. If you are currently in the military or in some senior ranking position of importance somewhere in the country, if you do everything you can to undermine and subvert and derail the Trump administration, we're going to help you. We're going to stick up for you. We got your back. By the way, shout out JD Delay in the live chat. Much love, brother. He said YouTube is kind of messing with his channel also. Now I feel a little bit less crazy. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you. And so, well, I'm not happy to hear that, but I am, if you know what I mean. Folks, President Trump has caught wind of this. And this morning, he has been typing up a storm. He has been truthing up a storm over on Truth Social. Let's see what he's got to say about this. President Trump, in response to this, he says, this is really bad and dangerous for our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up. And you notice he says, like, question mark, like, hello, lock them up. We know for a fact President Trump has been having a little bit of turbulence with our attorney general. Her name is Pam Bondi. 2 days ago, President Trump issued a Truth Social post. He said, for the love of God, Pam Bondi, just arrest people already. Pam Bondi, arrest someone already. That's from President Trump 2 days ago. That's not me saying that. Of course, I am saying that. The president, the Trump, said that 2 days ago. For the love of God, Pam Bondi, just arrest somebody already. So he's like, yeah, lock them up. Hello. This is sedition. This is traitorous. He goes on to say, it's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President Donald J. Trump. Do you agree? Yeah. Do we agree with that? Yeah. Hello. Duh. Another one. Like I said, he's popping off this morning. President Donald J. Trump, he says, seditious behavior, punishable by what? Punishable by death. There is. Listen, it's true. That is the maximum penalty here. Seditious behavior is punishable by, by death. In fact, he goes on, he even says something else here. I want you to pay attention to this. President Trump, can I zoom in? Another user on Truth Social, another user says, hang them. George Washington would. You know who reposted that? Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States. So to be fair, he didn't post it himself. but he sure as hell reposted it. He reposted what somebody else said. Hang them. What would George Washington do? He would hang them. And by the way, I'm not the one saying this, God forbid. The president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, is saying this. Do you agree? And you know what? I mean, this is factually true. What would George Washington do? What would George Washington do? Would he hang them? Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, honestly. Yeah. You have a collective of senior ranking Democrat politicians that are issuing a message to the U.S. military in our intelligence community saying, hey, if you don't like what President Trump is telling you to do, just don't do it. Just undermine him. Just subvert him. And so, folks, this is the biggest national news in the country right now. Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, is going to come out and talk to all of us about this in about 19 minutes. So here we are. Now, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. This entire situation goes deeper and deeper. Stephen Miller issued a statement sort of about all of this earlier this morning. Take a look.
They don't believe in systems. They don't believe in rules. They don't believe in laws. They believe in whatever keeps them in power. And if what they think keeps them in power is a military insurrection or a CIA insurrection, that's what they support. But if in a different setting, if, say, a soldier doesn't want to take the COVID vaccine, then they represent a threat to order in their view, and that person must be crushed and deprived of employment, deprived of opportunity.
That's a good point. That's one hell of a point.
If a Democrat, for example, complains about election integrity, that person's a hero. If a Republican complains of election integrity, that person's to be jailed and incarcerated for life. This is the moment that we're in. This is what we're dealing with. So when we say that Democrats are communists, we don't just mean that, well, they believe in the state control of property. We mean they've adopted a method of thinking in which any use of force is justified for their end state of power and control. So they become a third world party. We have to internalize that. We're not dealing with the old Democratic Party. We're dealing with a third world party.
He's totally spot on about this. The degree to which the Democrats right now care about the rule of law or the Constitution or any of these ideas found inside of the Constitution is really the degree to which these ideas or laws or rules benefit their far left, radically progressive agenda. The second the Constitution is at odds with the far left, radically progressive, anti-Trump, anti-America first agenda, well, they're just going to start wiping their ass with the Constitution. They couldn't care less about it. The degree to which they care about the foundation of this country is the degree to which the foundation of this country benefits them. And the second it doesn't anymore, they'll toss it out. They'll burn it down. Who cares? Very, very clearly, this is the case. Now, we have Department of Homeland Security Secretary Noem chimes in on all of this that's been going on.
Today, we are announcing that we have stopped all grant funding that's being abused by NGOs to facilitate illegal immigration into this country. So it's amazing to me the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been spent by the federal government that has been sent to NGOs to facilitate this invasion of our country. So I've taken action to stop those funds, to reevaluate them, and to make sure that we're actually using the taxpayer dollars in a way that strengthens this country, that keeps us safe. So I think people are curious when we look at grants that are given out by federal agencies at how they're utilized, and that evaluation needs to be done. We're not spending another dime to help the destruction of this country. Well,
to be very clear, we've talked about this a lot. Listen, the vectors of attack coming from the far left, which they are engaging in to try to destroy this republic, it's really just immeasurable. It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole. The second you take down one of their avenues of attack, 10 more pop up. It's like Hercules fighting the Hydra. You slice off one head, 3 more pop up. It's like, how do we even stop this? We got to try. What we now know is that the far left radical progressives, they've attempted to sort of weaponize the federal government. I mean, this is what happened during the Biden era. They were using federal funding to not only to open up the border and allow in 25 million illegal aliens, but then to use federal taxpayer money to subsidize their existence. So think about how twisted and just evil this is. Hey, American people, we have realized, hey, that's you, American person. I know that you're never going to vote for my radically progressive agenda because it's intolerable to any American patriot. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up the southern border. I'm going to allow in tens of millions of immigrants from the third world against your desires, against your democratic will. I'm going to do it anyway. And then once they are here, and as they are actively terrorizing you and dealing drugs and engaging in criminal behavior and gang violence and human trafficking, then I'm going to take your taxpayer money, give me the money. I'm going to take your taxpayer money and I'm going to then give it to them. I'm going to make you pay for your own terrorization and your own replacement. You are going to have to pay for your own replacement. That is effectively the platform of the Democrats right now. It is disgusting, and they're doing this through various NGOs. It's insanity.
We're going to make sure that we follow through on what President Trump has promised, and that's to make sure that we're securing our border, departing those who are here illegally, and committing criminal actions, and that our taxpayer dollars aren't spent to help it.
And Madam Secretary, I don't think people fully understand the role that NGOs play, many NGOs play, in facilitating illegal immigration.
By the way, what is an NGO? A non-governmental organization. Think of a rootless, multinational political organization. A good word is globalist. Think of a rootless, globalist political organization, many of which, almost all of which, are hell-bent on destroying this country and flooding this country with immigrants from the third world and taking your taxpayer money.
I just want to share these numbers with everybody up on the screen. We spend over $380 million, did in 2024, for sheltering and service programs for illegal immigrants. But the vast network of NGOs that help facilitate it through Panama, through Mexico, and make it a landing spot here in the United States is a massive contributor here to illegal immigration. So what you're telling us today is that now stops? At least the federal funding of that stops?
Yes, through the Department of Homeland Security, we have stopped spending those dollars to fund those NGOs. And, well, what's been so revealing is that many of these NGOs actually have infrastructure and operations set up in Mexico on that side of the border that are telling those illegal immigrants to come to them, and they will get them across the border. So they're not just operating in the United States. They're operating outside of the United States to help make it easier for those who want to break our laws.
Right.
And well, I was one of those Americans that years ago, when somebody said NGO to me, I thought, oh, that's amazing. That's a nonprofit that's out there telling somebody about Jesus or spreading faith and salvation or doing good work and charitable work, helping people that are less fortunate. And then I realized over the years it's been perverted into this shadow government. An NGO is sometimes an operation that does things that the government cannot do.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Maybe this is controversial. Maybe I'm going to get in trouble here. This is something we all need to be very aware of. The degree to which the Christian faith has been hijacked by anti-American, anti-Christian subversives is just insane. We as Christian, patriotic, God-loving Americans need to be very aware of this. There are people around this world, all over the world, in the country, out of the country, that are looking to take advantage of this faith, of you, of us, of all of us, to turn our goodwill against us, to take advantage of us.
Can't legally do, so they create an entity to use government dollars, taxpayer dollars, to do something that the federal government isn't allowed to do, to do a shadow government operation that really has been used recently to undermine our country's national security.
And so, like I said, it's opening up the border, it's flooding the country with tens of millions of illegal aliens, it's making all of us hardworking, tax-paying Americans pay for the entire process. It's terrorizing Americans. It's human trafficking. It's drug dealing. It's fentanyl overdoses. It's Democrats in the House and the Senate telling active duty military personnel and members of the intelligence community to undermine and subvert the elected president of the country. It's hijacking and weaponizing the federal judiciary. Now, by the way, we've got great news today. Speaking of attempting to hijack the federal judiciary, President Trump, I don't know if you heard the news, today has made a massive victory in the U.S. Supreme Court. 5-4 bombshell ruling came out earlier today. Do you want to talk about this? The Supreme Court, just a couple hours ago, this morning, in a 5-4 split ruling, overturned the Obama-appointed Judge Boasberg and confirmed, ladies and gentlemen, that President Trump can, in fact, invoke the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to use the U.S. military on American soil to deport illegal aliens. I can't even explain to you, I can't even express to you how massive of a victory this is. This has been one of the biggest roadblocks. If you want mass deportations, this is the best news of your life. Okay? You want to talk about mass deportations? Let's start talking about mass deportations. I'm going to play the video. Here we go.
Now we have a Fox News alert. The Supreme Court just cleared the way for Trump to deport illegals even faster. The High Court ruled that Trump can use the Alien Enemies Act to send Venezuelan gangbangers to a mega prison in El Salvador. This is a huge ruling in Trump's favor and a major win for the country.
I want him to be deported. I want Boasberg to be deported down to CCOT. That's what I want. Boasberg to have to go spend the rest of his life in a CCOT prison cell with all of his beloved MS-13 Tren de Aragua gang members down in El Salvador. Bye-bye, Boasberg.
After, as you know, D.C. Judge James Boasberg ordered a stop to the deportations. So this is pretty significant. These deportations, Caroline, can keep going.
This is a massive legal victory, Jesse, a massive victory for law and order and for our constitutional republic and the sovereignty of the United States of America. We called on the Supreme Court to rein in these activist judges like Judge Boasberg, who was completely out of line in trying to say that the president didn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists off of our soil. We have always maintained the position at the White House that the president was well within his constitutional authority to do so. And this decision proves that President Trump and our administration have always been right from the beginning. He will continue to utilize the Alien Enemies Act to remove foreign terrorists and Tren de Aragua members, vicious gang members from American communities. And because of this ruling, the United States of America is a much safer place. Our team will get to work tomorrow to deport these heinous, violent foreign terrorists from our neighborhood.
Now, once again, folks, as a reminder, in 7 minutes, none other than White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt is going to be coming out speaking to us about all of this. So if you're new, make sure to like, subscribe, Rumble, YouTube. Here's what I like to say. Follow me everywhere other than in real life. Okay, is that fair? Okay. But anyway, we're going to have some big news from her, presumably this morning, because, you know, some days there are slow news days. Maybe 2 days ago, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Today, it's like, whoa. Today, when it rains, it pours.
And you had another couple critical wins in the court with regard to Doge. Tell us about those. That seems to be making progress.
Yes, absolutely. There have been many wins that the mainstream media has failed to cover, particularly over the weekend. The Supreme Court also ruled that the president does, in fact, have the authority over federal funding, that he can dictate what funds can go out the door and what can't, so long as they are part of the executive branch.
Oh, yeah.
So we have always, again, maintained that every executive order the president has signed, every executive action that he has taken has been well within his executive authority. And Doge is doing a tremendous job at cutting back at the waste and the fraud and the abuse that have been ripping off American taxpayers, that have not been aligned with our interests here in our country. So we're going to continue the president's agenda. Again, he's well within his constitutional authority. And it's great to see the Supreme Court reining in these activist judges who are wearing robes, but are acting as judicial activists, not as real judges and real arbiters of the law.
All right. Lawyer's wrong. I can't believe a lawyer would ever be wrong. It just amazes me.
Well, there's this iconic clip from about a year and a half ago. This was on the campaign trail during the 2024 election, in which Chuck Schumer, I believe he's being interviewed on ABC. I've used this clip in like probably 50 of my videos, so you've probably seen this before. Chuck Schumer, he's being interviewed. He says, over the last several years during the Biden administration, we have appointed 247 far left judges to the federal judiciary so that should Trump win the election, we will be able to stop him every step of the way. Folks, this was all incredibly premeditated. This was all part of the far left's plan, of the Democrats' plan, was they were worried that Trump was going to win the election. And so as an emergency stopgap in case he did, spoiler, he did, but preemptively, they spent years appointing far-left, radical, progressive judges to the federal judiciary across the country for the sole and explicit purpose of undermining President Trump and his America First agenda should he win the election. He did. And so guess what? That is exactly what we have been seeing for the last 11 months, 10 months. And thank God, every single time one of these cases, these lower court rulings gets appealed up to the Supreme Court takes a look. Thank God the Supreme Court is remaining at least a little bit impartial. They're saying, listen, what are you freaks doing? What are you freaks doing down there in the lower federal courts? You are drastically overstepping your bounds. The word we like to use is judicial tyranny. If it was up to the far left, this country would be a judicial tyranny. Some of us were over here arguing, well, it's a republic, it's a democracy, it's a this, it's a that. Okay, sure. As far as they are concerned, they want judicial tyranny. They want a judicial tyranny. Okay, so we're going to hear from Carolyn Leavitt here any minute now. Now, she mentioned DOGE, the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. I don't know if you know this, it hasn't been getting a lot of attention. Nobody's really been talking about it, but maybe once a week I take a look at this. The DOGE, they still are slowly plugging away. They still exist. Maybe they're not, pumping as much as they were 10 months ago right out of the gate, but they are still chipping away at waste and fraud and abuse inside of this federal government. So far, it's been 10 and a half months, maybe 11. They have saved, at estimate, $214 billion worth of federal waste. It's a big deal. They still are chipping away. They still exist. They're still doing their thing slowly. Now, they've had a lot of, issues and hurdles come up. They've got to come on over, but they're still plugging away. Now, there is a massive super chat here from Rosa de Arment. Rosa, thank you very much. I want to say thank you very much. This says, I'll take a look at this one, says, people like yourself and Jake Lang give me hope that this land will not be taken over by our enemies, at least not without a fight defending it. Supporting the streamers on the ground and streamers like yourself are now in my budget. Well, listen, I'm never going to ask for any type of super chat or donation, but if you do, if you find it in your heart or you have something extra, I really do appreciate that. Sincerely, I do. I appreciate that. And I want to say thank you. I hate to say this, I don't know who Jake Lang is, so now I'm like, man, I got to go look up Jake Lang. Maybe I can go tune into this guy. Maybe he's good. Thank you very much, Rosa. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. Rosa, especially, thank you. We have a new member, Tori May. Thank you, Tori May. Welcome to the community. Welcome. Man, we really do have... Is this the number one community out here? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it's because of you guys. We also have Karen Hope, 6986. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen. Welcome to the show. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Shout out the Rumble followers. Shout out Atomized in the Rumble chat. Now we have more to talk about because, folks, right now we're waiting for Carolyn Leavitt to come on out. She is scheduled to come on out here in the next 1 minute. Sometimes, you know how this goes. Sometimes they're a little bit late. Okay, that's fine, though, because we have a lot to talk about. Now, speaking of arresting people, and also speaking of what's been going on, I saw somebody mention in downtown Portland outside the ICE facility. Yesterday afternoon, breaking news. An Antifa terrorist has just been found guilty in federal court, not state court, federal court, after he launched an arson attack against the Portland City ICE facility in June. Trenton Edward Baker, who identifies as... really, as trans, now faces 20 years in federal prison. FAFO. The arson attack damaged the facility and in part helped to hold DHS agents hostage inside. Can I zoom in on the image here? So this lovely trans woman over here on the right, this lovely trans woman who is a member of a domestic terror organization, it's called Transtifa, is here on video throwing some type of, I don't know, incendiary device outside the ICE facility. Guess what? Guess what, lady? Guess what, lady? You are going to spend 20 years in a federal prison. And by the way, I suspect probably a men's prison. I think you're going to a men's prison. Now, I'm going to tell you something, though, okay? We are seeing some arrests here and there. I have to say something, folks. I need to be a little bit critical I think it's important that we do. Neil Russell, thank you, says, thank you, homie. Hey, thank you. Hey, don't thank me. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, President Trump was posting these Truth Social posts. Sedition, treason, maybe execution. Hold these people accountable. Hello, arrest these people. I'm with Trump. I am, at this point, we are 10 months into the show here, 11 months into the show. I am beyond talking about it and making posts on the internet about it. These people need to be held behind prison bars. These people need to be arrested. All of these Democrats that are calling for sedition or insurrection, undermining President Trump. It's one thing, listen, yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to make posts about it on Truth Social. Arrest them. I'm with President Trump at this point. Pam Bondi, hello, Pam Bondi, for the love of God, arrest somebody. Bring forth the charges. Bring them forth. Bring forth the charges. We brought forth the posts on Truth Social. Okay, that's great. Maybe that's step one. Now let's move on to step two. Bring forth the criminal charges. These people need to be apprehended, detained, put inside of a prison cell. That's enough posting on the internet. That's enough yapping about it. Let's actually do something about it. Homeland Security. While we're sitting here waiting for Carolyn Lev to come on out any minute now, I saw the Homeland Security official government page. They made a post. Rent is too high. They're saying rent is too high. Well, there are tens of millions of criminal illegal aliens inside the country. Groceries cost too much. Well, there are tens of millions of criminal illegal aliens inside the country. There aren't enough jobs. There are tens of millions of illegal aliens inside the country. Women don't feel safe walking down the street. There are tens of millions of criminal illegal aliens inside the country. Traffic is terrible. Illegal aliens. Healthcare is too expensive. Illegal aliens. There are tens of millions of criminal illegal aliens in the country. Welfare spending is through the roof. Illegal aliens. I can't afford a car. Illegal aliens. I can't afford a house. Illegal aliens. There's a lot of problems here, and kind of the solution to all of these problems is pretty much the same. Now, what I will say here is that it is, whose job is it to get rid of the illegal aliens? Well, the Department of Homeland Security, ICE. We got to get rid of these people. Now, so far this year, it is, man, it's almost Thanksgiving, folks. Good Lord. It is November 20th. By the end of the year, we are set to have approximately 3 million deportations in total. So far, we've had around 600,000 compelled forced deportations. Beyond that, so far, we've had around 2.2 million self-deportations through the CBP app. Listen, I think a lot of people don't really understand this. We saw this, a little bit of an American history lesson. While we're waiting for Carolyn Levitt, let's talk about American history. In the 1920s, 1930s, there was a remigration program carried out by the U.S. government. It was called Operation Mexico. It was called the Mexican Repatriation Program, is what it was called, of the 1920s, 1930s. Feel free to Google that. There was also another repatriation program in the 1950s, 1954 specifically, predominantly. It was called Operation, dare I say, Wetback. It was called Operation Wetback. That was the official name of it, so by the way. But anyway, what we saw during these two great remigration programs in the 20s and 30s and again in the 50s was that, yes, it is effective to carry out forced deportations. You've got deportation officers kicking people's doors in, snatching them off the work site. We're seeing ICE do that right now. But really, if you want to see big time motion, if you want to see a lot of these people get out of the country, the most effective way to do that, hear me out, is actually to just make this country so hostile towards illegal aliens that they see themselves out. If you take, and what I mean by hostile is if you invoke a sense of fear, man. So what are we seeing with these ICE deportations? They are very public. They're plastered. They're broadcast all over the internet, all over the mainstream media. That sends a message. All of these very publicly broadcast ICE deportations where ICE officers are ripping people off the sidewalk, they're ripping them out of Home Depot, they're kicking in their door, whatever. I'm going to be honest, maybe I'm not supposed to acknowledge this, but this is designed to scare illegal aliens. It's very public, it's very visible. The purpose of this is to scare illegal aliens so much that they get the hell out of the country, which is exactly what we want. It's designed to create an environment of fear. And they should be afraid. They should leave the country. If they don't want to be worried about getting apprehended by ICE, they should leave the country immediately. And so that's a part of it. We're also ripping away their federally funded welfare, like SNAP, food benefits. We now know, as a consequence of this government shutdown, that millions, the number I've seen floating around is somewhere around 4.2 million illegal aliens in the country were collecting federally funded SNAP benefits. 4.2 million. Can you believe that? So we're ripping away these benefits. Things like this. So if you take away the financial incentive, I think, listen, I haven't seen anybody talk about this. The Trump administration has also taken legal action against over 1,000 employers in this country that have been employing illegal aliens. So people always say, yeah, go for the illegal aliens, but also we need to go for the employers. Excuse me. The Trump administration is actually doing that too. They're doing that too. And we can always say more, we want more, but it's happening to a certain degree. So we're going after the employers. We're cracking down on employers. We have very visible, very public ICE deportations, kicking in doors, whatever. It's creating an environment of fear. We're taking away the financial incentive for these people to be here. You know, here's the curious thing. If we remove these people's capacity to receive free shit from the federal government, isn't it curious how they just kind of see themselves out? It's a little bit weird. And that's exactly what's happening. So this is why really any competent or intelligent remigration effort should be built around compelling self-deportation. Self-deportations are really, in a way, the number one goal. In fact, this is going to sound weird to say this, but perhaps the most effective component of forced deportations, where ICE is kicking in doors and ripping people off of the sidewalk, is that for every one person we publicly and visibly forcibly deport, that sends out a message across the country. Hey, whoa, it's not safe to be here. If you're an illegal alien, it's not safe to be here anymore. You're living in fear. For every one person we forcibly deport, now we know 4 or 5 illegal aliens self-deport. The entire program is structured around compelling and incentivizing self-deportations, and that's what we've seen. By the end of the year, we're going to have minus 3 million illegal aliens, minus 3 million criminals that are a waste of federal tax money, and also state tax money, by the way, depending on what state you live in. And that's exactly what we want to see. And of course, we know this already. The rate at which these deportations are taking place is increasing not linearly, exponentially. Okay, there's a curve there. And the reason why is because about 6 months ago, 5-6 months ago, we passed, it's called the One Big Beautiful Bill, the OBBB. And inside the OBBB, it allocated funding for the hiring of another 3,000 CBP agents, another 4,000 or 5,000 DHS agents, and another 10,000 ICE agents. If you want to deport people, you need boots on the ground. When Trump stepped into the White House 11 months ago, believe it or not, he only had 4,500 ICE agents at his disposal. He had an open border. This is what Trump inherited: an open border and 4,500 ICE agents. He said, this is not going to fly. We got to pass the OBBB. So we passed the OBBB. Now the border is on lockdown. It's been 6 months since we've had a single illegal alien enter the country. We're hiring another 3,000 Customs and Border Patrol agents that are actually patrolling and monitoring the border. Another 4,000 or 5,000 Department of Homeland Security agents that are backing up ICE, working with ICE. And then another 10,000 ICE agents. So the OBBB has now tripled the number of ICE agents in the country. Well, I say has now. By the way, this is as far as I understand it, it takes about 9 months to hire, to recruit, to hire, to train. They've got to go to police school or ICE, the ICE Academy, whatever it is. It takes about 9 months to train up an ICE agent, to get them from hiring them to the point where they are ready to go out in the field and start snatching up illegal aliens. It takes about 9 months. So this is why I say it's growing exponentially. Yeah, we're having a sort of a drip feed. Okay, we have another 100, 200, 300, 1,000, 2,000 ICE agents joining the force. DHS, another 100, 200, 300. But most certainly, you can't snap your fingers and immediately have another 10,000. It takes time. You got to train. You got to hire them. If anybody here has been browsing social media every single day, it's probably because I'm a 31-year-old man. I'm the target demographic. I see advertisements every single day on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook. ICE is hiring. $50,000 sign-on bonus will pay off your college tuition or your college loans, whatever it is. They are really trying to hire ICE agents, and it seems like they're doing that pretty effectively. So good, thank God. So thank God for that. Now, folks, really the big news of the day that we have talked about, that really everybody is talking about right now, is this collective of senior-ranking Democrat politicians. Here they are, sitting in the House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate, and they are effectively fomenting insurrection or sedition. They are compelling current members of the U.S. military and members of the intelligence community to undermine and subvert President Trump. And so now President Trump, he is not happy about this. This morning he took to Truth Social. He's going off. He is pissed, rightfully so. Seditious behavior, punishable by death. He's saying death penalty. Bring it forth. If you don't believe me, look what he reposted. Somebody else on Truth Social, he said, this is another random person on Truth Social this morning. He said, hang them. George Washington would do it. President Trump reposted that. So to be fair, President Trump didn't post this himself, but he did repost it. Hang them. What would George Washington do? He would hang them. Sedition. Punishable by death. It's called, this is President Trump, it's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. This is really bad. It's a danger to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up. He's like, hello, lock them up. We know that Trump right now is a little bit unhappy with Pam Bondi, who's our attorney general. 2 days ago, President Trump issued a similar post on Truth Social in which he said, for the love of God, Pam Bondi, start arresting people. That's from Trump. That's not from me. Of course, I agree. Trump himself, 2 days ago, on Truth Social said, for the love of God, Pam Bondi, start arresting people. So you can tell Trump is upset. He says, like, lock them up. Hello? Somebody lock these people up. They are seditionists. They are traitors. Hello? Is anybody listening? Lock these people up. Now, where's Pam Bondi? I'm going to take a look. Not Pam Bondi, Carolyn Levitt. Who knows? Maybe Pam Bondi, she might be making an appearance today. In fact, I think she should. I think Pam Bondi should come on out today and talk about this entire dynamic. Hello, you're the Attorney General. Let's hold these traitorous anti-American freaks accountable. It's about time. The reason why they say this stuff is because they think it's because they're confident they're going to get away with it. If they thought that they were going to be tried for sedition and sit inside a federal prison cell for 20 years, do you think they would be saying this stuff? They'd be posting TikTok videos like this? Hell no. They have become increasingly brazen. Increasingly brazen. You know what's curious? Maybe I'm being a little bit schizo here. I'm being a little bit schizophrenic here. Look at his bow tie. Not his bow tie. I mean his tie. What are the symbols on his tie? He has a bunch of skulls, like crossbone skulls. What's going on here? Look at the bow tie. Zoom in. Hey, we need to enhance on this. His tie that he wears for this specific video, in which he's telling members of the intelligence community and members in the U.S. military to subvert and undermine the president, the commander-in-chief. He wears the skull tie, the skull and crossbones tie. Maybe I'm being a little bit schizo here. I don't know. That's a little bit weird, right? Is anybody else doing anything weird here? Now I'm just kind of taking a look around. Maybe not. I don't know. She's dressing up like Steve Jobs. I don't know, man. That's a little bit weird though. Skull and Crossbones says, I'm not a part of any societies. Maybe I wish I was. I don't have any friends. I don't know. Okay, let me take a look at these super chats here. We have Steve Taylor 6488. He doesn't even have a message. He says, "You are amazing." Hey, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in. Listen, these people are beyond the pale. They have gotten so used to doing whatever they want to, acting with complete and total impunity. You know, it's like they say, if you're a kid on the playground, the only way to make the bully stop bullying is to go up there and sock him right in the nose, right? These people on the far left, whether it be Antifa, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, or these members of Congress, these senior-ranking Democrat members of Congress, what the hell? They have become so brazen, so absolutely shameless in their subversive anti-American antics that they're uploading TikTok videos like this in which they are compelling intelligence agency members and members of the military service personnel to subvert the will of the president. Figuratively speaking, somebody's got to sock him in the nose. You got to say, listen, figuratively speaking, you know, the point is they need to be held accountable here. Like President Trump has said, you need to send a message to these people that in this country we have laws, we have rule, we have order. There is a will of the American people. The will of the American people must be respected. It's insane. It's getting sickening. Now, Dread Legion, he says, I would very much like to work for ICE, but they're so far away even from my state of LA, and I can't even afford to move where they're at. You're telling me they're not hiring in California? I don't know. I'll tell you what, you know, if I had a different set of life circumstances, if I was a single 31-year-old guy and I wasn't doing what I'm doing, and I don't know, yeah, I think, you know, I would join ICE. So here, I mean, I don't know. Here's my advice. Like if you're kind of like an aimless young man right now, you kind of don't know what you want to do, mid-20s, early 30s. It's tough. You know, life is tough. The economy's tough. I don't know. Like you don't have a concrete, you know, career yet. You don't have a family. Man, it sounds like a pretty good deal. The point is, I'm trying to say it sounds like a pretty damn good deal to join ICE. Oh, Louisiana, I apologize. Louisiana, apologies. But anyway, no, the point is, it sounds like a good deal to me. Now, I see Neil Russell. He has become a supporter of this community. I appreciate that on YouTube. There's another one here. This is Wojo. Says, the good thing about being a skull is you don't need nobody. About being a skull. I feel like this is some coded language. I don't even know what that means. Hey, thank you, though. I appreciate that. Folks, listen, I want to double back and quickly talk about this Insurrection Act dynamic here. As you saw a moment ago, where was that? Can I pull this up? Maybe I closed the tab. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court early this morning or late last night has issued a bombshell 5-4 ruling determining that President Trump, in fact, as the commander-in-chief, does have the executive function, the executive authority to invoke the Alien Enemies Act, which, guys, you need to understand this. Because of I think it was last night, technically, because of this Supreme Court ruling, President Trump now has the legal authority, in accordance with the Supreme Court ruling, to deploy the U.S. military on U.S. soil to carry out mass deportations and to deport illegal aliens. This is something that we have been waiting for months. For months, it got held up in the lower federal courts. Everybody's favorite judge, Judge Boasberg, who was appointed by Obama, far-left, insane, radical, progressive judge, traitor, similarly, held it up. The Supreme Court took up the case. 5-4. Actually, President Trump, you do have the authority to invoke the Alien Enemies Act. And thank God for that. As it would turn out, the commander-in-chief does have the authority to use the U.S. military to repel an invasion on our domestic soil. And that is exactly what has gone on. This country has been invaded by illegal aliens, by millions of illegal aliens. And so now it's time to get rid of them. Now, I've got another report that's kind of tangentially related here. I think this is probably some good news for you guys. Sort of speaking about the economy real quick. We had this report coming out earlier today. CNBC, the economy added a robust 119,000 new jobs in September, more than doubling economists' expert predictions. So Trump is, in fact, creating jobs. Over the past year, 2.5 million native-born Americans gained employment, while 670,000 foreign-born workers lost employment. 670,000 foreign-born workers lost employment. How do you think that happens? Oh yeah, it's because they're getting deported. Oh yeah, that's right. It's because they're either having their H-1B visas revoked or they are being deported. That's right. That's right. Now, speaking of H-1B, I have a super chat here. This says, I voted for Trump all 3 times he ran, but I'm starting to lose my support for him. He's not arresting any of these treasonous Democrats. He supports H-1B. It seems like he lost touch with the base when Charlie was killed. I will give you a little bit of a pushback here. I don't really think it has that much to do with the Charlie situation, but what I will say, keep this in mind. This is something I am confronted with every single day as a right-wing commentator. It is much more profitable to report on bad news than it is to report on good news. You might notice here, sometimes we give pushback if something really is problematic or sort of against the America First agenda. I do not bite my tongue. You guys have seen me kind of go off a couple times. In fact, on Twitter the other day, I had a tweet go viral, got like 5 million views because I was really upset about this H-1B dynamic. I think the Trump administration has done a good job coming out and clarifying specifically what they meant about the H-1B dynamic. First off, when we think of H-1B visas, we think of importing 200,000 low-wage, low-skill Indian workers from India in order to take jobs from Americans. When Trump, that's sort of, and I think it's fair to think about it that way because that is how things have been working for a very long time, to be frank, and it has been screwing over Americans for a long time. To be fair, when Trump talks about the H-1B visa going forward, I want to try to understand what he's saying. It seems to me, you're welcome to disagree, it seems to me like what Trump wants is to temporarily, Carolyn Levitt is coming out right now. Hold that thought. We're going to talk about H-1B visas later. Hold that thought.
I brought a very special guest with me today, as you can see, Secretary McMahon. So I will begin my remarks. She's going to speak, and then we'll take some questions. She'll take questions, and I'll take questions from you as well.
We'll double back
First
to that
off,
later,
yesterday,
okay.
First Lady Melania Trump and Second Lady Usha Vance traveled to Marine Corps Air Station New River in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, where they spent the day meeting with students, educators, military families, and United States Marines. Both the First Lady and Second Lady were grateful for the warm welcome and remain deeply committed to supporting military families and the communities that serve our great nation. May God bless all of them. In economic news, the September jobs report showed the American economy remains strong, with 119,000 new jobs added, more than double expectations. These gains came after the summer passage of President Trump's historic tax cuts and multiple big trade deals with countries around the world. In particular, construction jobs surged by 19,000 in September, the largest monthly gain in a year. Wow. Nearly all of this solid monthly job growth came from the private sector and went to Americans rather than foreign-born workers, the opposite of what we saw under the previous administration. Inflation also remains under control, and wages are up by 3.8% over the year for American workers because of President Trump's pro-growth policies. In fact, real wages are on pace to increase roughly $1,200 for the average worker this year under President Trump. This is a complete reversal of the failed Biden era, when we saw inflation skyrocket to 9%. Causing private sector workers to see their wages decline by approximately $3,000. We know that Americans are still hurting from the 4-decade high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats, but President Trump is making significant progress to fix this, and he will not stop working until he solves it. As the president recently stated, he is never satisfied. For example, President Trump's policies are working to make Americans' Thanksgiving more affordable this year, from their commute to the dinner table. Nearly 100 million Americans are expected to drive next week to spend time with loved ones for the holiday. And thanks to President Trump's drill baby drill agenda, the national average price of a gallon of gas on Thanksgiving Day is projected to be at the cheapest price since the COVID pandemic in 2021. President Trump is bringing down gas prices and providing significant savings to American families at the pump. And again, we expect those prices to continue to decline. According to the American Farm Bureau Federation's annual survey, cooking Thanksgiving dinner will also cost less this year than it did last year and is down about 5% overall. The average price for a staple of the meal, a 16-pound frozen turkey, is down more than 16% from last year, which will provide critical savings for families in their budgets. President Trump's entire economic agenda is aimed at putting more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. That's why he signed the largest middle tax cuts in history into law, from no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, to no tax on Social Security. And according to a new study from Piper Sandler, which is out this week, tax filers can expect an extra $1,000 bump to their tax refund next year in what could be a record-breaking tax refund season. So there is more good news to come. We know these refunds will make a huge difference for Americans to help pay down their bills and use towards life's expenses. In other news this week, President Trump took a significant step toward delivering on a core campaign promise to finally close the Department of Education. To shrink the bloated federal bureaucracy, the Department of Education just entered into new interagency agreements with 4 agencies: the Departments of Labor, Interior, Health and Human Services, and State. These agencies will now ensure the delivery of legally required programs while also refocusing them to better serve students. This common sense action brings the Trump administration much closer to finally returning education where it belongs, at the state and local level, not in Washington, D.C. The Democrats' reckless 43-day government shutdown did manage to do one valuable thing. It proved that America does not need a federal Department of Education. During the longest shutdown in history, the Department of Education furloughed 90% of its staff, and America's education system was not impacted whatsoever. Schools stayed fully open across the country. Students attended class and received normal in-person instruction, and our wonderful teachers received their paychecks uninterrupted. The Democrats' government shutdown made it painfully obvious that American families do not need the Department of Education. Since its creation in 1979 during the Carter administration, the Department of Ed has spent over $3 trillion taxpayer dollars without improving student achievement.
Oh my God.
Despite pure pupil spending having increased by more than 245% since the 1970s, math and reading scores are down in public schools. In fact, the most recent Nation's Report Card from 2024 showed that 13-year-olds' math scores are the lowest they've been in decades, and their reading scores are the lowest since testing began more than 30 years ago. It's clear that throwing more money at a broken system does not work, and that's why President Trump appointed the amazing leader behind me, our Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, who is making these monumental changes at the direction of the president. We're very grateful to have you here today to talk about these changes and then take some questions. Hopefully folks in this room will have some questions on the very important topic of education. So please, Mrs. Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Caroline. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today, and thank all of you for being here as well. My purpose here is to speak directly to the American families, not just you, but to the American families, about the work this administration is doing in education to reverse our national decline with a hard reset of our educational system. That reset was a top campaign promise from President Trump to send education back to the states and end Washington's micromanagement of education once and for all. This week we took the most decisive steps thus far to make good on this promise to you. We have linked 6 groundbreaking partnerships with other federal agencies to delegate education department programs that are redundant with existing programs at Labor, State, Interior, and HHS. These interagency agreements to cut our own bureaucratic bloat are a key step in our efforts to shift educational authority from Washington, D.C. to your state education agency, your local superintendent, your local school board, entities that are accountable to you, and we encourage parents to always be involved. Cutting federal bureaucracy is never a popular move among D.C. insiders. A chorus of anti-Trump voices have come out of the woodwork to complain that we are defunding education, harming students, or acting without a plan. This could not be further from the truth. The majority of Americans across the country handed President Trump the popular vote precisely because they have seen the brokenness of a top-down education system run by the federal government. They're painfully aware that only 3 out of 10 students can read proficiently at their grade level. They know that college students are collectively $1.7 trillion in debt, and less than half of college graduates get a job that actually uses the degree which they studied so hard to get. They see more teachers than ever before leaving the profession due to burnout, over-regulation, and lack of autonomy in the classroom. Anti-Trump voices are stirring up fear that returning education to the states is a draconian action. When Americans hear that we are shutting down the department, but given no other details, 51% oppose it. But when those same Americans are informed of our plans to preserve important elements of our work in other federal agencies and to maintain the K-12 funding that is distributed to the states, that number flips to an even greater majority at 56%. They support returning education to the states and breaking up the bureaucracy.
Most people do.
That's because the Department of Education is a pass-through entity. It doesn't educate a single student. The money it sends to states for education can be sent directly without waste. The Democrats' government shutdown proved that without a doubt, and I'll reiterate what you said, that the Department of Education was not necessary during the shutdown. Now, this is what I've seen already on my 50-state tour that I've embarked on. Educators are innovating in their schools. States are customizing their budgets and standards, and post-secondary institutions are planning for the economy of the future. But we're not leading them. They are informing us. That's why our final mission as a department is to fully empower states to carry the torch of our educational renaissance. Education is local. It should be overseen locally by those who best know local needs. We're not ending federal support for education. We are ending federal micromanagement and paving the way for education renewal through state reforms like school choice, the science of reading, and restoring the right priorities in higher education. President Trump promised to send education back to the states, and we're keeping that promise. America's next generation will look back on the work we've carried out, thankful for an education system that prioritizes students over bureaucracy. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. And we'll take some questions for the Secretary if you have them. Elizabeth, why don't you start?
I want to hear about the sedition stuff.
You announced the partnership to move some functions of the Education Department to other agencies. Are you talking to members of Congress about codifying this so that it lasts beyond the administration?
Yes, we started our conversation, and thanks very much for asking that, because there have been some reports that Congress is in the dark on this. That's clearly not true. We've been talking to I've talked to dozens of members of Congress to explain to them exactly what we're doing, to bring them up to speed, and to say to them, look, when we have completed some of these transfers that are working incredibly well, then we will be looking to Congress to codify those, make them permanent.
Brian.
Thank you. Secretary McMahon, what is the update on the negotiations with Harvard? I know the president has publicly pointed to you as somebody who's worked on that. I think you've talked about that at length, but I'd like to understand where are things with those negotiations with Harvard at this time?
They're ongoing negotiations, and I feel very comfortable that we are getting close to having those negotiations finalized. It's been open door conversation all along.
Deanna?
Hello, Mrs. Secretary. The President recently posted about establishing a federal standard for AI. Do you know if the administration has a view on the use of AI for students in schools? And Caroline, do you know if the President personally uses AI?
I don't think so.
You can handle that
I've never
one.
witnessed it, so I can't attest to that.
Well, I do think AI is going to need guardrails, but I have witnessed AI firsthand. I was at the Alpha School in Austin, Texas, and the first 2 hours of every day in that school. Students are learning through AI. They have their headsets on, they're in front of their screens, and the AI is really acting as like an individual tutor for those students, allowing those students that can progress faster to do that. Those who need a little catch up, it refeeds information to them. And so after those 2 hours of learning, you know, the basics of what they're doing in their curriculum that day, then they spend the rest of the day, I mean, they have good recess and all of that time, but then they spend the rest of the day in what are called life skills. And they're actually using the information that they've learned this morning. So I've seen some AI in action that is really proving quite beneficial.
Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary McMahon, as the Education Department continues to pare down, can you talk about taxpayer services like charter school grants and how the department will continue to assist kids with special needs?
Well, we are going to make sure that there's no interruption in getting that grant money out the door. I mean, you know, that money is, it comes from Congress, it's appropriated by Congress, and we legally are obligated to do that. And the transitions we're starting to make, our first programs that went over to the Department of Labor, that was a few weeks ago. We actually signed the first interagency agreement, which we accomplished under the authority of the Economy Act. We transferred grants for WIOA and for the Perkins Act. And the really good news is that the Department of Labor has a much more sophisticated system, technology system and grant fulfilling system than the Department of Education does. As a matter of fact, our executive manager that went over with that group over to Labor said he would compare what the labor system is to education's like held together by bubble gum that is not connected to any other part. So we were able to get those grants out the door more smoothly, and states have actually better access for those systems than they do at the Department of Education. So that's a real bonus.
Take a couple more. Carrie, go ahead.
As far as the diversity, equity, and inclusion new regulations that came out from the administrations, a lot of schools, whether high school or even higher education is concerned, some of them are defying these new administration policies, even apparently according to a new report.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Rick.
As far as there's been a new report from the administration saying that half of medical schools are defying the administration when it comes to DEI policies. What type of action will the administration take for these schools that are defying the new DEI policies?
Well, certainly the president has been very clear, and the Department of Education has taken measures to make sure that as schools are developing, you know, their policies, or if they have open DEI offices, they're closed, or DEI regulations and rules are stripped, you know, from their programs, and so that will continue.
Great. We'll take one more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary McMahon, my question is, since you said 3 out of 10 students are literate with regard to their reading capacity, would now the states help to improve those numbers since you have gone back to the states?
Well, what we are finding that the states that are making great progress, it's through their own innovation. It's not coming from the Department of Education.
That is true. Yeah.
You know, the Department of Education is really misunderstood about what our function is. We don't teach one student. We have nothing to do with the curriculum that are in any states. We are a pass-through pathway from money that's appropriated by Congress to get, you know, to the states. But what we have seen in those states that have taken that initiative, and they are embracing the science of reading and returning that into their school programs. Louisiana has done it. Mississippi, they call it the Mississippi Miracle, because they were like, I think, bottom or next to last in reading proficiency in Mississippi. And now they're like middle of the pack, which has been a really big jump. Florida has, Iowa has, Tennessee. So, but these are innovations that are done at the state level. This is not anything we're dictating, and that's why I'm saying returning education to the states, where they really are already leading in their education endeavors, and 90% of their budget they provide. The federal government only provides 8 to 10% of the budget for education, so let's make sure that that grant money that's coming from the federal government is getting in their hands as efficiently as possible and getting to students. We don't want teachers having to spend their time and money in regulatory compliance. There was one superintendent chief who said to me that they had done some calculation in their state, and that For every dollar that went into the classroom in a grant, 47 cents was spent in regulatory compliance.
Oh my
So
Lord.
let's get the money into the hands of our students and our teachers. Let's raise the level of education. The other thing I'll do, and I'll quickly wrap up for you, is this 50-state tour that I have embarked on. We've done about 14 states. We've shut down a little bit during the shutdown. But what I am doing is visiting different kinds of schools, grammar schools, middle schools, high schools, micro schools, private schools, charter schools, the whole gambit. And in the end, my goal will be, as we step away and fully deliver education back to the states, is to provide them with a best practices toolkit of all of the things that I have seen around the country to say, hey, this is working. Check with these superintendents, check with these governors. And you know what I found a little bit is governors are a little competitive. So it's kind of nice to give some of these best practices out there. It'll work because it's already working. If we leave it with the people who are closest to the students, the president believes, as do I, the best education is that's closest to the child, and parents' involvement is critical to the success.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
Linda.
Good
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. I
Let's
appreciate your
talk
coming
about
today. Thanks for your great
Sedition.
work. And
Thank
she's
you all very much.
a busy lady, so we'll let her get back to work.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again. Well, let's get to it. You guys were so calm
Let's
with
get
her.
to
I wish
it.
you were that calm with me. We'll kick off with our new media seat, as always. Javier, why don't you start us off, and then we'll get to the rest of the room. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Javier Negre. I'm from Spain. I'm the owner of the biggest media platform in Hispanic politics, with brands like La Derecha Diario, Ida TV, or UH and Plus, or Vicegraph in Spanish. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for supporting the new media, also in the Hispanic community. We try to fight against medias like Telemundo, Univision, CNN, or NBC News that are spreading fake news and attacking the ICE operations. We will premiere this Sunday the Real America's Voice, the Rainy Show, the first Hispanic show against communism and woke culture that is promoted by people like George Soros to bring communism all over the world, like happened in New York. I have two questions for you, if you don't mind. In Mexico, the young people is protesting against President Sheinbaum. They think she's doing nothing against the cartels. Sheinbaum used the police to attack them, young people, kids, girls, and she's attacking journalists like me in a country where 150 journalists have been killed in the past years. The USA legacy media is attacking President Trump for his comments about the fake news media, while they are not publishing anything about the murders of journalists in Mexico. Why do you think they stay silent about the murders of journalists in Mexico and the attacks to businessmen like Ricardo Salinas? And my second question is, Trump said he has a plan for the narco state of Venezuela. Does he have a plan for Mexico where, according to Stephen Miller, the cartels are controlling governments and territories?
Well, thank you, Javier, for the question, and thank you again for being here. We're proud to have new media voices in the briefing room. As for President Sheinbaum and the president's relationship with Mexico, I will tell you that we have seen historic strides from President Sheinbaum and her administration in Mexico when it comes to cracking down on the cartels. They have been incredibly cooperative with the president's efforts at our southern border to crack down on illegal immigration and also the illegal trafficking of drugs at the southern border. Now the president is very interested in taking additional measures against the drug cartels. He's been very clear about that. He's spoken about it, and this is a promise that he made to the American public. And so his national security team is discussing these options all of the time. And on the campaign trail, the president promised to take on the cartels. He has taken unprecedented action to do so, and he has left additional options at his disposal on the table. So those are only decisions that the president can make. Thank you.
The silence of the legacy media about the murders of journalists in Mexico. 150 journalists have been killed in the past years.
Yeah, well, it's certainly something I wish the media would report on more, and it's something that this administration absolutely condemns. I can't speak for the media, but I can speak for the president. That's not something he wants to see. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Is there anything that Mayor-elect Mamdani could say tomorrow that would ease the president's concerns about his future leadership in New York?
Look, I don't want to speak for the president or get ahead of this meeting that we are currently working on tomorrow. As you saw, the president put out a statement tomorrow that the mayor-elect will be coming to the Oval Office, and so our teams are arranging those details. I won't get into the president's thinking on it. I think you'll all hear from him directly. I also think I will just add, it speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House, because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country.
We're going to be watching that here live.
It's very telling, but I also think
back.
it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people, whether they live in blue states or red states or blue cities, in a city that's becoming much more left than I think this president ever anticipated in his many years of living in New York himself. Nancy.
Thanks, Caroline. This morning, President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to, because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos, and it could incite violence, and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command. These 3 members of Congress, I will also add, knew exactly what they were doing. You look at Alyssa Slotkin. She's a former member of the CIA. Mark Kelly was a captain in the U.S. Navy. Maggie Goodlander was a naval officer, and notably, she is also the wife of Joe Biden's national security former advisor, Jake Sullivan.
Oh, no way.
And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as former members of our military, as veterans, as former members of the national security apparatus to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message, and it perhaps is punishable by law. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the Department of War to decide.
But the president has frequently, but Caroline, can I just follow up? The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually,
every
they said
single
you can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they are
illegal
but they're
military
suggesting they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. And the courts have proven that. This administration has an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court because we are following the laws. We don't defy court orders. We do things by the books. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see. Phil.
Thank you. Ambassador Mike Huckabee had a meeting with Jonathan Pollard, a former U.S. citizen who was convicted and spent 3 decades in jail for selling state secrets to Israel. Did the White House know that that meeting was going to happen? Does the administration condone it?
The White House was not aware of that meeting, but the president stands by our ambassador, Mike Huckabee, and all that he's doing for the United States and Israel.
You said that the president was going to do what was right for U.S. citizens, regardless of whether they lived in blue or red states. I'm curious if there's any chance in tomorrow's meeting with Mayor-elect Mamdani that he will be able to convince the president to abandon that promise to cut off federal funding to New York City.
Look, Phil, we'll see how the meeting goes tomorrow, and I'll let the president speak for himself. Natalie.
Thank you, Caroline.
I can't wait for that.
What did the president mean when he called reporter piggy?
Look, the president is very frank and honest with everyone in this room. You've all seen it yourself. You've all experienced it yourselves. And I think it's one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president, because of his frankness. And he calls out fake news when he sees it. He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him, when you spread fake news about him and his administration. But he also is the most transparent president in history. And he gives all of you in this room, as you all know, unprecedented access. You are in the Oval Office almost every day asking the president questions. And so I think the president being frank and open and honest to your faces, rather than hiding behind your backs, is frankly a lot more respectful than what you saw in the last administration.
Oh, hello? Ladies and gentlemen.
Upstairs and didn't take your question.
There we go.
I think everyone in this room should appreciate the frankness and the openness that you get from President Trump on a near daily basis.
And
go ahead.
As a follow-up,
yes.
The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has.
I'm calling on Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you. Two questions for you. The New York Times is reporting that the administration is now sending a U.S. official to the G20. They are sending Mark Dillard. Can you confirm if that is true, and then also explain the shift in?
I'd be happy to explain, because there is not a shift. The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team. The ambassador, or the representative of the embassy in South Africa, is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
On Ukraine, there have been reports that President Zelensky said, he's looking to look at the plan, that there's been reports about the Trump administration proposing a plan. Can you just give an update on where Russia-Ukraine stands, and does the president plan to speak with Zelensky anytime soon, or when can you expect that?
So I'm happy to provide an update. I've seen quite a bit of reporting on the latest with Russia-Ukraine, so let me clarify and give you guys the truth on where it currently stands. President Trump has made it very clear since day one, and even on the campaign trail, that he wants to see this war come to an end. He has grown increasingly frustrated with both sides of this war, Russia and Ukraine alike, for their refusal to commit to a peace agreement. But nevertheless, the president and his national security team are steadfast in seeing this war come to an end, to end the killing and deliver on the president's promise. Special Envoy Witkoff, Marco Rubio, have been working on a plan quietly for about the last month. They've been engaging with both sides, Russia and Ukraine, equally, to understand what these countries would commit to in order to see a lasting and durable peace. That's how you get to a peace negotiation, right? That's how it worked with Israel, with respect to Israel and Gaza and all of the Arab countries in the Middle East. That's how we accomplished that historic agreement, which the UN, by the way, voted to commit to and accept this week, which was a huge monumental moment. So they have been engaged with both sides, and these talks are continuing. As always, I'm not going to litigate the details of this plan as it's ongoing and it's in flux, but the president supports this plan. It's a good plan for both Russia and Ukraine, and we believe that it should be acceptable to both sides, and we're working very hard to get it done. And I'll also add, I know Secretary Driscoll did meet with President Zelensky today. We spoke with him. He was very optimistic following that meeting. And so, again, we are having good conversations with both sides with respect to ending this war. Sure. Go ahead.
Follow-up on Ukraine. You said this is a good plan. So according to our sources, this proposal demands major concessions from Ukraine and doesn't demand much from Russia. So was Russia involved in drafting
Your
this?
understanding is wrong. Have you read the full plan?
Damn.
You haven't.
Sources said.
Yes.
So if you can give details,
You've read reporting from one side of the war, and so I want you to understand that the administration has talked equally with both sides. You have seen President Trump engage directly with both President Putin and President Zelensky. Likewise, his national security team has as well. In fact, Special Envoy Witkoff and Secretary Rubio met with some of the Ukrainians just in the past week to discuss this very plan. And so just like you saw with respect to Israel and Gaza, we are hearing out both sides of this war to understand what can you commit to end the war. And that's ultimately how we are going to get to an agreeable solution. That's what the president has directed of his team. I know there's a lot of criticism out there and a lot of doubters, but I would just remind you of the historic success that this president and his team accomplished in the Middle East. We believe that is possible with Russia and Ukraine, and we're hoping and working very hard to achieve that. Stephen.
Could you provide a little more context on what to expect tomorrow with the Mamdani meeting? Will it be in the Oval Office, or is it going to be open at least partially to the press?
I don't have any more details to read out for you on the meeting quite yet, Stephen. I know it's of great interest to you and the New York Post, but we'll keep, maybe if it opens, we can commit to letting you in. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. It came up yesterday during a confirmation hearing for the president's pick to lead the CFTC that the CFTC currently has 0 Democrat commissioners, whereas usually it's had 2 or more. Does the president plan to appoint Democrats to financial regulators like the CFTC and SEC, or does the president feel that there shouldn't be Democrat leadership at those agencies, consistent with the administration's move earlier this year to remove Democrats from the FTC and other agencies?
I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't spoken to the president about the CFTC in quite some time, but I'm happy to check in with our presidential personnel office and see if there's any updates that we can provide you there. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Last week on Fox News, President Trump said that we've had a lot of problems with the French. How would you describe the current relationship between France and the U.S.?
Look, the relationship remains very strong. President Trump speaks quite frequently with Emmanuel Macron. I think they have a good working relationship, but the president is not shy to point out when he has disagreements with world leaders as well, and he's done that with respect to Mr. Macron as well. Deanna, go ahead.
Caroline, there are reports that Qatar is acting as a mediator in the Ukraine peace process. Can you confirm that, and why did the president choose that country?
I'm not going to get into further details other than what I previously shared, which I think was quite a bit of information. Brian?
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. We were talking about 4 earlier in this briefing about the president's orders. You were going back and forth about what the ad said and what it didn't say. My first question is...
The ad?
The advertisement that the Senate Democrats were featured in. So my first question is, no matter what the order is, it could be to any administration official, military or otherwise, no matter if legal experts might think it's illegal, does the president expect those cabinet members, administration officials to go ahead with those orders regardless of any outside thinking or experts?
The president expects his cabinet officials in the administration to follow the law and to demand accountability and hold people accountable for their dangerous rhetoric. And I would just add that if this were Republican members of Congress who were encouraging members of the military and members of our United States government to defy orders from the president and from the chain of command, this entire room would be up in arms. But instead, it is the other way around, and I think that's quite telling. I'm going to let you all go because the president, excuse me, I appreciate the encouragement this morning, this afternoon, but President Trump is about to meet in minutes with Israeli hostages who this administration freed, and so I'm going to go up to that meeting, and you will hear more about that later. Thank you.
You misquoted Democrats in that video. That's actually not what they said.
Man, some of these members of the media, of the press here, are just completely and totally incompetent. Right. Good Lord, it's tough. Man, Carolyn Levitt here has a pretty tough job. Not that it's tough to answer the questions. I think a lot of us could do that. It's just tough to deal with these people, Man, that's one hell of a job. She's good at it, though. There's a lot to break down here. So, yeah, President Trump is pissed off, and the line that Carolyn Levitt she repeated this 3 times today, was sedition. Was, these are senior ranking Democrats in Congress that are inciting sedition or insurrection. We want to see some criminal charges. We want to see accountability here. That's what we want to see. It's one thing to tweet about it and talk about it here. Let's actually bring forth the charges. Now, Piggy. Can we quickly talk about Piggy? I was reading the other day that the woman's name was actually Peggy, and President Trump was saying, "Quiet, Peggy. Quiet, Peggy." but it sounded like Piggy. I don't actually know for certain either which way, to be honest. I feel like if her name was Peggy and it was a misunderstanding, that Carolyn Levitt would have said, well, her name was Peggy and it's a misunderstanding. But that's not what she said. Carolyn Levitt didn't say that. What Levitt just said was that, well, President Trump, he says what he wants. Well, that's just kind of how he is. You're just going to have to deal with that, Piggy. I don't know. Maybe her name is Piggy. Maybe her name is Piggy. We can't rule that out. Listen, we need to talk about this. There's a very real possibility here that this actually was the woman on the plane. This was the journalist on Air Force One, that he was actually literally speaking to Miss Piggy. I don't know why nobody in the media is covering that. This is a real possibility. Maybe Kermit the Frog was there. Maybe Bert and Ernie were in the back also. I don't know. Nobody knows. There's no way to know that. So I don't know. Okay. Now now there was a question that I was in the middle of answering here before Carolyn Levitt came on out and spoke. And so I said, hold that thought. I want to double back and continue talking about that before we wrap up with today's show. I do want to say, everybody, make sure to like and to subscribe. I'm telling you, there is some funny business going on YouTube. On Rumble, everything is good. Everything is always good on Rumble. On YouTube, there was something going on, okay? Over the last week or 10 days, I've had some of my videos, some of my live broadcasts, they've been getting like shadow banned. Specifically, I can tell you, normally I upload a video where I go live with a broadcast like this, and YouTube will put the broadcast in front of people that are not subscribed. Well, that hasn't been happening. YouTube has only been putting many of my videos and live broadcasts in front of people that are subscribed, and they're not putting it all in front of new viewers, people that are not subscribed. So, and I'll tell you what, that is very abnormal, very, very strange. I've uploaded like 1,000 videos in the last year. I'm telling you, something weird is going on. So I implore you, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like today's broadcast. It really does help. I don't know, things are getting kind of weird. So I really appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons why we're streaming on Rumble and YouTube at the same time every day, because God, who knows? You all remember during the Biden era, when Biden's administration was putting a lot of pressure on big tech, all these tech companies on YouTube and on Facebook and on Twitter, all of them trying to silence conservative Americans like us. They were trying to shut us down. And so, maybe that's happening again. I don't know, but we always got to be vigilant. So make sure to subscribe on Rumble and on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. Excuse me. Okay, so what we were talking about before Levitt came out was the H-1B dynamic. And also, I think it's worth talking about the 600,000 Chinese student visa dynamic as well. I have been very publicly critical of both of these. There are some things I want to say. The first thing, let's get some numbers on the table. Trump has been in the White House for 11 months. During his first year here, it's looking like he's going to have a total of 3 million deportations in the first year. 3 million between self-deportations and forced deportations in 12 months. That's a big deal. It is a fact of the matter to say right now we are experiencing the single largest remigration deportation program ever in American history. And also, it is a fact of the matter to say it seems like the rate at which these deportations are going up, it's not linear, it is exponential. The rate at which we are getting rid of these people is going up. It's faster, more every month. And a big part of that is because we are hiring new ICE agents in accordance with the funding we got from the big, beautiful bill. So more boots on the ground, more deportations makes sense. So it's happening more quickly every single month. That's the first thing. In fact, actually, 2025 will be the first year since the 1950s that we have fewer immigrants coming in the country than are leaving. We have a net negative of immigrants coming in the country. For the first time, 2025, since the middle of the 1950s. Okay? That's a big deal. That is what I voted for. And it's happening at an increasingly rising rate. Beyond that, We also know for a fact, let's talk about H-1B visas real quick. We know for a fact between 2025 going into 2026, President Trump has reduced the number of H-1B visas going out by 25 point something percent, 25%. If I can give you the exact number, in 2025, this is Joe Biden. Joe Biden, so the way this works, I should explain how it works. Every single year, whoever's president gets to determine how many H-1B visas are allocated for that year. Joe Biden locked in the 2025 number. That number was somewhere around 175,000 H-1B visas for the year 2025. Joe Biden locked that in. Trump got in the White House. He has locked in the number for 2026 at around like 138,000 or something like that. You do the math, it's a 25% reduction. So already we have a 25% reduction in H-1B visas going out as we head into 2026. That's good. This is where you might get mad at me. I am, and you know, I'm. Can I take the mask off here for a minute? Can I be totally honest with you guys? Can I take the mask off? If I had to be a single issue voter, my single issue is maintaining the demographic integrity of America. If it's up to me, I think we should adopt pre-1965 immigration legislation like we had between 1780 up to 1965, almost 200 years, where we pretty much only took in European immigrants. We had a rule. In fact, in 1923, the Supreme Court ruled that that Indian people can't even be U.S. citizens. I think we need to kind of rule things back. The European ethnic demographic integrity of this country is very important to me. I'm going to be honest. If that makes you mad, you call me a racist. I don't really give a shit. That's of the utmost importance to me. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I support President Trump, is because we want mass deportations. He's taking refugees from white Boer farmers from South Africa. Good. If we're taking refugees or immigrants from anywhere, those are the type of people I want, to be honest. They seem to integrate more so than any other immigrants from anywhere else. These things are important to me. If it were up to me, I'd snap my fingers, and I think immigration should be limited only to European countries. That's my opinion. That's my preference. Now that being said, I am willing to buy the argument that this country has, in certain areas, become so dependent on low-wage, low-skill foreign labor that if we were to cut all of it off immediately overnight now, that there would be catastrophic consequences. What this means is that I understand, I'm willing to accept the argument that if you want to get rid of every single H-1B low-skill, low-wage worker from India, it might be a 2, 3, 4, 5-year process. You might have to slowly peel it off, you might have to kind of detox off of that as opposed to going cold turkey. I'm willing to accept that argument, okay? Maybe I'm not immediately happy about that, but I understand we live in reality. That might be the dynamic at play. And so I see that Trump has reduced H-1B, the 2026 H-1B allocation by 25%. Okay, now what I expect to see next year is another reduction for 2027 by similarly 20 or 25%. I want to see these reductions year after year after year until we've gone from 175,000 H-1B visas in 2025 all the way down to 3,000 or 5,000 H-1B visas in 2028 or 2029. And those 3,000 or 5,000 H-1B visas genuinely really are actually for incredibly high skill, really, mechanically complex laborers. Maybe like what we're talking about with these chip manufacturers, a couple thousand workers coming over from Taiwan that are going to be here for a year or two and train people. Okay, maybe that's just the reality in which we live. That's my stance on the H-1B dynamic. Now, maybe I'm going to piss off some of my viewers here when I say this. I think if I can be blunt, I think it's kind of indefensible to bring over 600,000 Chinese students. I don't think we can make any sense of that whatsoever. I'll tell you, it seems like the 600,000 Chinese student dynamic is a part of a deal with China to get them to stop exporting fentanyl precursor chemicals. China, as you all know, China's been exporting fentanyl precursor chemicals to Latin America. Latin American cartels take those chemicals, they turn them into fentanyl, they ship them up into the US. Boom, we've got dead Americans. China has been stalwart. They have not wanted to stop exporting those chemicals because they make tens of billions of dollars every single year. What seems to be the case is that Trump has struck up a deal with China. All right, China, if you stop exporting precursor chemicals to Latin America, which are used to make fentanyl, then we will allow 600,000 Chinese students into the country on student visas. And by the way, to be clear, it's 600,000 over 2 years. It's not 600,000 in 1 year. So if you want to be super litigious here, it's actually 300,000 per year. 600,000 for 2 years if you want to be super semantic here. But listen, man, once again, if I were president, you know what I would say? Maybe it's a good thing I'm not president. I would say, hey, listen, Xi Jinping, not only are we not giving any student visas to any Chinese people ever again, we are not allowing any CCP nationals into our country ever again. We are also not going to be importing any Chinese exports until you capitulate and agree to comply with our demands. And on top of that, we're going to be blowing up any ships in the Pacific Ocean that we believe are trafficking fentanyl precursor chemicals to Latin America. We're just going to fucking blow them up. Boom, 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 boom. And if you don't like that, then you better fucking stop. Sorry, pardon my language. Now, maybe it's a good thing I'm not president. Maybe I'm not diplomatic enough, but I am a little bit hardcore. So you can call me a right-wing extremist. Maybe, I don't know, but this is how I feel. I think it is, if I can be totally honest, it is much harder to defend the 600,000 Chinese visas than what's going on with the H-1B visa program. Also, there's another thing worth mentioning. Not only has President Trump reduced the number of H-1B visas going out into 2026, 25% reduction, he has also said, you saw this about a month ago, he said, every single new H-1B visa application comes with a $100,000 application fee. So now there's fewer H-1B visas going out, but also those that are still going out are very expensive. And the reason why Trump has slapped a $100,000 application fee for new H-1B visas is to say, listen, American employers, Intel, Microsoft, Apple, whatever, whoever it is, if you're trying to import some worker from somewhere else in the world, India, China, or otherwise, they had better be pretty valuable if you're spending $100,000 to pay for their application costs. So this is Trump's kind of insurance policy to make sure now that the ones that are coming in, they better be valuable. Not better. They must be valuable somewhat. They must be valuable to Intel or Microsoft. Otherwise, they wouldn't be spending $100,000 to get them in. By the way, prior to President Trump's executive order about a month ago in which he mandated this $100,000 application fee, the previous application fee for new H-1B visas was $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So he has multiplied this by like a factor of 25 or 30, the price for a new H-1B visa. So it is, a lot of these things are steps in the right direction. Is the problem immediately solved right now overnight? No. He's got 4 years, three more years. I want to continue seeing positive steps in the right direction. Okay. As they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, if I can repeat the old adage. What matters to me is that Rome is in fact being built. What matters to me is that we are in fact laying the foundation and putting up the pillars and building the Colosseum. As long as we're seeing a reasonable amount of progress, I'm not going to be, I don't know if you guys have noticed. Over here in the right-wing commentary ecosystem, you see a lot of people. In fact, it's becoming, it's probably the most profitable thing you can do right now is to say, oh, screw Trump. The administration is dead. America First is dead. MAGA is dead. F Trump, F this, F that. It's not really my approach, as you might have noticed. We have a massive super chat on YouTube right now from Andrew Penning. This is a $100 super chat. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. That means a lot. That means a lot. I do need to wrap up the show here, but I'll kind of give you a little bit of an explanation as to kind of why do I do what I do. Excuse me. And the reason why is because I think in large part the MAGA agenda, the America First agenda, if we can put together 4 or 5 bullet points: mass deportations, tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, repatriation of labor, maintaining the American demographic integrity, nativism, etc. All of these sort of America First MAGA policy points, I think a lot of these points are still publicly being litigated today in the ongoing political discourse. What I mean by this is people are still like, should we even have a closed border? I don't know. What are the pros? What are the cons? Should we even have mass deportations? I don't know. What are the pros? What are the cons? Why do we care if China takes all of our jobs? I don't know. What are the pros? What are the cons? Hey, maybe we do want 1 million Indian workers coming in the country. I don't know. So I feel like these discussions are still being argued and debated and publicly litigated. And so my goal that I've taken upon myself is every single day, I want to upload videos and go live and talk to you guys, do these live broadcasts and explain why these policy points are good. Why it is important that we have mass deportations, why it is important that we have reciprocal trade tariffs, why it is important that we domesticate American manufacturing back from countries that hate us like China, why it is important that we do this and that and this and that. Because I think these ideas, I'm not even talking about Trump. For a minute, pardon my language, screw Trump, take him out of this. It's about the ideas. Here's the reality. It's about the policy points. Here's the reality. Trump is only going to be here for another 3 years, and then we're going to have to find a way to maneuver on here without Trump. And I think it's going to be very, very difficult to maneuver on and continue the America First, Make America Great Again agenda without Trump if we haven't sufficiently justified the policy points themselves. Does that make sense? Right now, President Trump is the battering ram. Boom, 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 banging in. But he's gone in 3 years. Okay, these policy points have to be justified to the American voters, to the American electorate, because if they're not explained, hey, we've had mass deportations, here is why your life has gotten better as a result of that. Hey, the border is closed, here's why your life is better now. We've re-domesticated American manufacturing, here's why your life is better. We did this, here's why your life has improved. That's my goal. Because I feel I really am scared that if somebody doesn't do that, if everybody's like, screw Trump. Yeah, we've had some deportations, but not enough. So screw Trump. If everybody does that, and you're seeing a lot of right-wing commentators do that, if everybody does that, then I really sincerely believe the America First agenda, the MAGA agenda, it's gonna die whenever Trump leaves the White House. It's gonna be dead whenever Trump leaves. And so that is my objective. That is my goal every single day. That's what compels me to get up at 6 a.m. and spend 12 hours a day writing video scripts and editing videos and going live and putting together the show. It's a one-man operation. So hey, I want to say thank you all very much for tuning in today. It's a one-man operation. I'm a one-man show. All the script writing and editing and God, it's a lot. So, and you know what? Because of you folks, because of you guys, I don't know if you've noticed, we're going toe-to-toe, head-to-head here with multi-million-dollar operations, multi-million-dollar broadcast studios. They've got writers and producers and editors. They've got think tanks telling them what to say. Man, it would be easy if I could wake up every day and have an email from some NGO or some foundation and say, all right, Matt Morris, here are your talking points. You're going to talk about and here's a script for you, and then we're going to edit the video for, man, I do it all. It's a one-man operation. So I really appreciate everybody here that's tuning in on Rumble and on YouTube. I couldn't do without you, so thank you very much. We are out here litigating. We're litigating the America First agenda every day. Thank you very much. Amanda says, have you looked at Japan's new immigration rules? If people think the USA is strict, they are completely oblivious to how lenient we've become over the last 50 years. We should go back to the 1950s. Yes, we should. Everybody says the 1950s was better, but then nobody says, why was it better? Might it be because, well, this is a conversation for a different day, but I think you all know what I'm going to say. Everybody, I want to say thank you very much. Thank you. I really do. I need to go get to work. That's what I need to go do. Listen, we're losing daylight here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Make sure to like, subscribe, everybody. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to have something for you later today. So take care, everybody. I'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much.